In today's video, we're going to talk about what's actually sold. You've seen listing challenges on my channel. You've seen Nathan and I working away in the storage unit over all these months. You've seen me thrift and you see what I buy. But you probably think, does she actually even sell anything? So let's get into it and talk real numbers. What I'm going to cover today is sales over a 1 month period. As I'm recording this, it's the middle of August, so let's talk about sales for the month of July. In July of 2025, I have had Nathan as part of the team since late April, so call it May and June. So 2 months of more consistent listing. I won't say perfectly every day, but more consistent listing. Lots more items going up for sale. So that does sort of start the eBay engine. And so certainly, as I will review with you here today, the numbers do reflect that. I sold 32 items in the month of July. So averaging about one per day. Certainly was not doing that before. I might sell one a month or a couple a month. So one per day on average is a great improvement. What you all want to know though is what was the dollar amount. So the net sales, now when I say net sales, I mean not including the eBay selling fees and not including the shipping costs. So the buyer pays me, I take off the shipping, I take off eBay's fees. What am I left with? That's what I'm calling net sales. That was $1,364. Now, one thing we still have to take off that to see what is my net profit, and that's the cost of those goods that sold. The cost of those goods was $97, or an average of just $3 and a few pennies per item. When we break it all down, all those numbers I just said, that comes out to a net profit of $1,267 for the month of July. Remember I said there were 32 items sold? If we take $1,267 of net profit and divide that by the 32 items that were sold, that comes out to an average profit of $40 per item. That's pretty decent. I think that, is great news in terms of the brands that I'm picking up, the quality, the type of items that I'm able to source here in Calgary. So, a couple big ticket items, and we'll get into that. But I'm really, really happy with that level of profit, that number of sales, and that average profit per item, around $40. Something that you may or may not be aware of, depending if you're an eBay seller or not, is when I list an item on eBay, when anyone lists an item on eBay, you have the option of whether you want to promote that listing. And this is something that when I'm watching other YouTuber reseller videos, people go back and forth about, should I be promoting my item? Should I not be promoting my item? Essentially what that means is if I'm promoting my item, let's say it's a specific pair of Nike running shoes. If someone types into the eBay search engine, Nike, whatever that specific kind of shoes is, it's going to search the database and bring up pages and pages possibly of that specific model of Nike shoe. If my item is promoted, meaning I am paying a percentage of my eventual sales price to eBay for, quote, promoting my item, it means it will show up higher in the search results. So, of course, it stands to reason, the higher percentage that you promote your item, probably the even higher it comes out in those search results. So if there's 100 of that particular Nike shoe for sale, and I'm promoting mine at 5%, and someone else is promoting theirs at 6 or 7 or 10 or 12%, theirs is going to show up higher in the page than mine is, but mine is still going to show up higher than anyone who is not promoting their item. Out of my 32 sales, are you curious? How many of those were promoted and they were sold because I was paying a fee to eBay to bump mine up on the search? Well, the short answer is 22. 22 out of my 32 sales came from a promoted listing. So about 2/3. So at least for me personally, that sort of answers the question, at least in my own experience. Is promoting your listings making a difference in your sales? Quite possibly, yes. Now, I'll share with you, I promote my items at 5%. That's in the example I just used, but that's real life. A lot of times when we're listing in a particular category of item, whether it's a vintage brass decoration or a set of stainless steel flatware or a pair of leather shoes or a handbag or like you name it, all the different categories of items, eBay comes up with a suggested rate of promoting that item. I'll tell you one thing, it's not 5%. It's 8, 9, 12, even as high as I've seen 14%. Not for this gal here. If you think I'm going to give away 10, 12, 14% of my sale price to eBay for promoting that listing, that's a little higher than I'm prepared to pay. And so far, I have found the 5%, as you see, still seems to be doing the trick. Again, I haven't experimented to see would I sell more if I promoted more at a higher rate. I don't know. But I do promote 100% of my listings on eBay at 5%. So another interesting concept when you're an eBay seller is the whole area of offers. And there's two kinds of offers. There's offers that I can send to potential buyers. So I'm sure you're not surprised to know that eBay tracks everything that everyone ever looks at on eBay. And so if a person, is just either browsing around on eBay or searching for a specific thing, and if they click on my listing, eBay will, periodically throughout the day send me a little notification that I could potentially make an offer to that person who looked at my listing. Doesn't mean they were going to buy it. They could be just looky-loos. They could be just curious. They could be someone watching me on YouTube who goes in and just checks out my store. Doesn't matter. eBay knows that someone has looked at that listing, and it gives me the opportunity to send out offers. So when I first was starting out, even just a few months ago when I was getting a little more serious about eBay, I was a little cautious about sending out offers. I still had this notion in my head of, I marked it at like a fair selling price based on other items of a similar or same that have sold. Why would I want to offer a discount? Then I went to my storage unit again, or looked in my basement again, or opened my storage cupboard again and realized how many items I have and I really want to clear them out. So I started getting more serious about extending offers. So now, generally speaking, I'm starting out with offers at about 15% off of my listing price and that eBay will send that automatically when I trigger it to anyone who's viewed one of my items. And again, if I see a particular item that keeps coming up in my send offers notification, but it's not selling, it tells me a lot of people are looking at it, but it's not selling. So maybe it is priced too high. I might go in and adjust the price, or I might just offer a larger discount, like 20% or 25%. There's one hat in my store. It's come up so many times because it's obviously a cool retro vintage item. I've gone as far as offering 50% off and it still isn't selling. So I did finally adjust the price on that hat. Anyway, I digress. That's one kind of offer, which is me, the seller, making an offer to potential buyers. There's, of course, another kind of offer, which is a buyer making an offer to me. So when I set up my listings on eBay, I have a choice when I put whatever my asking price is. Do I want to accept offers? Now, if I had like the best item in the world that sells 1 million and there's none for sale and it sells like 1,000 times a day, I wouldn't accept offers. I would put it on for the going price and just wait for someone to buy it. But most items are not quite like that. So I will usually put that I'm open to offers, and I'll typically set a minimum price so I'm not getting all kinds of lowballs. I mean, let's not waste each other's time here, people. And I'll typically put, maybe $5 or something like that lower than my asking price, just to let people know I am open to offers. Now, senders can send me offers below that. It just won't automatically accept them, but I can consider whether I want to take those offers. So let's get into my real sales in July and talk about what happened with offers. So best offers, that's buyers sending me an offer lower than my asking price. 7 of my 32 sales came from me accepting a buyer's offer. So again, the whole offer process definitely plays a role in making sales, more sales, consistent sales on eBay. So 7 of 32, so that's not quite 25%. On the flip side, when I was sending out offers, knowing that people out there had been looking at a particular listing, 10 of 32 of my sales came from me sending an offer. So again, that could have been 15%, 20%, in rare cases, 25% off of my original sort of market competitive list price. But again, I'm looking to get rid of items. So even if I'm getting a lower profit, I'm happy to take it and make a deal. So 10 out of 32, more than 25%. So when we add those two together, the buyer sent offers and me sending buyers offers, we're talking about 17 out of 32 sales. So just over half had offers involved. So I found it really interesting to be looking at these sort of stats. Now let's talk the two extreme ends. You know that I made an average of $40 profit on each of those items, but what was my best sale and what was my worst sale? Let's start with the worst one first. So my lowest sale was $7.99. So I let something go. I don't usually list things for that low. So I must have put out an offer on something that was fairly low price to begin with, just to get it gone. It was probably a small item, and nose out, it was probably something that was easy to ship, because I wouldn't be doing that if I had to spend all kinds of time and materials shipping something. Interestingly enough, and I might get some comments, and that's okay. Feel free to, to shout out if you have feelings about this. But on that $8 sale, my net profit was actually $12, because, as I have said in previous videos, I do get a discount on the shipping when I buy my shipping label through eBay. So there was a few dollars of profit in the shipping that I made as well, which, I'll be very honest, is partly why I'm open to taking offers, is that I know there's usually a little bit of a margin in the shipping. So was the buyer happy? They were happy to pay the total price. I still walked away with $12 profit on that particular item. Now let's talk about my highest sale. In the month of July, the highest single item that I sold was for $200. So I took an offer. I think I had it listed for $250, maybe even $270. I'm not sure. It was an art thing. I'll talk more about it in a minute. A buyer came forward and said they would like to offer me $200, and I was like, done, let's do it. So after eBay fees and shipping, my net profit on that particular one was $166. So first one was low, $12. This highest one, of course, was significantly higher, which is all helping out with the average. I'm happy with what happened in July, but let's compare it to the month previous, June. Can't really go back and compare to like a year ago or something like that, because there were virtually no eBay sales happening back then. So most interesting to me is just to see how are things progressing from month to month. So as you know, I sold 32 items in July. That was up 23% from June, when I sold 26 items. So that's great. Went from, not even one a day to at least a solid one a day. And the gross sales, so that was the $2,009 that the buyers paid in total for the item and the shipping and tax, that's up 16% from $1,725 the previous month. So those are really good metrics as far as showing growth in the eBay business. pretty happy about that. Now let's talk about net sales. So again, when we remove the shipping costs and the eBay transaction fees and selling fees, this is basically the money that I'm left with. That was $1,364, which is up 16% from $1,177 last month. So another positive number. And then we have one that's a little bit negative, but not really too bad. Remember that average profit of $40 per item? Well, in the previous month, my average profit per item was actually $43.47. So the $40 in this most recent month is actually down 8%. I'm still happy though. $40 average profit per item, being like an everything seller, is still really excellent. But what it shows you is that July was not just a fluke. I had a similar, actually slightly higher level of net profit per item in the month previous as well. So good items I'm able to find and source with that kind of profit margin. So my net profit, again, after all is said and done, after we actually subtract the cost of the goods that were sold and leaves me with my net profit, that $1,267 that we got in July was up 14% from the previous month where it was $1,109. So all good except that one little negative, which is still not really a negative. If anything, it's validation that I do have decently valuable items that I'm putting up on eBay. So next, let's get into some sales highlights. So I want to talk to you about that banger item that I sold and took an offer for $200. So we'll put a picture of it up here on the screen. And if you don't know what it is, don't worry, neither did I. When I saw it on the Goodwill shelf, I could tell it was some sort of a metal bell, but it had all these rings and all these pieces and this wooden sort of flapper thing. And I honestly, just being truthful here, did not even know how you were supposed to hang it or hold it but anyway, I did the best I could in the store. So what you would see me do if you ever saw me in a Goodwill store or even in the bins is I sort of hold it out, take my phone and snap a little picture of it to do a Google image search, which is exactly what I did here to figure out what this was. Because until I found this item, I was not familiar with a vintage Richard Fisher Brutalist cast bronze teak wood wind chime bell. Now I know, doesn't that sound funny? The way we describe items, it's like so jerky, all these words, but you know, I haven't really talked too much about titling and how we put words in eBay, but it is important to have all the key words. Obviously, I knew this was a special item. I had seen when I did my original research in the thrift store that this exact same item had sold, I believe it was on Etsy for something like $268 or something. So I probably priced mine around the same, $260, $270. And when a buyer offered me $200, I was like, yes, please. Let's get that profit and move on. So you can see here on the screen, I actually purchased it for $7.50. So a little priced up at the thrift store, to be honest, but a very tidy profit for Flippity Flipped. Moving on, just a couple of other interesting sales, things that you might even not realize could be valuable when you see them in the thrift store. And let's pull up this next one. Knitting yarn. Did you know that was a thing on eBay? Same day that I bought that wind chime bell, they were bringing out some new carts. So I must have just hit it at the right time of day. And on a new cart, I saw, I don't think it was a bag. I think it was just some sort of a container where they had these loose balls of yarn. And I saw that they still had the packaging around them. They were a little messy, like a few, threads kind of loose or hanging out, but they looked to be fairly complete and still with the original packaging. So they were priced at $1.50 each. So I scooped them into my cart, and oftentimes, you've heard the other resellers talk about this too, the new carts is where you can often find the gems, things that are just freshly coming out onto the floor. So when I looked them up, I thought, oh, look at this. I guess people are in the middle of making Afghans, sweaters, scarves, whatever it is they might be knitting, and they may run out, or maybe they set a project down and they pick it up a year later. They find out that they're short on a particular color of yarn and it's not made anymore. So of course, where do you go look for something like that? eBay. Anyway, long story short, I picked up, I think, 5 balls of yarn. These 3 sold quickly, like in a matter of a couple of weeks, I think, from when they were listed. And 3 different buyers bought these 3 different colors and different styles of yarn, all by this same manufacturer, Loops and Threads. And in total, they paid $88 for these 3 balls of yarn, netting me a profit of $62.47. So for something super lightweight, could not be easier to ship. What a tidy little profit. So yarn, if you didn't know about that one, now you do. And now let's talk about one of my favorite categories, which is handbags. This particular red leather purse is from a brand called The Trend. I think, I could be mistaken, it might be a UK brand. If you're watching me from the UK, comment below. Do you know The Trend? Am I wrong about that? Is it Australian? Is it US? I'm not even sure. Anyway, it doesn't seem to be a well-known name, but really beautiful quality handbags, leather bags. So I found this red beauty in the bins. You can see on the screen here. I paid 59 cents was my average cost of goods that day at the bins. I mean, where can you get a beautiful leather bag for 59 cents? Me at the bins. Anyway, sold it for a net profit of $45, $44.95. So really nice, huge amount of profit on that particular item. So as you can see, just sharing a few different examples, showing you what happens in a month of reselling on eBay. There is definitely some profit to be made. I think you all know, if you've watched some of my other videos, it's not without doing a bunch of work. And thankfully, you know, I've got Nathan helping with listings. But all in all, I'm really very pleased at the growth of my eBay store and the results that we saw here in July. Would you like to see more videos like this with this kind of content? I don't know if you find it interesting, or if you're a reseller, if you find any of this information useful, but please tell me in the comments below, or if you have any other ideas for a future video you'd like to see me make. In the meantime, thank you as always for watching. If you haven't subscribed, hit the button. You hear me saying that because half of you are not subscribed to my channel. You gotta want to see more. Come on, hit the button. Anyway, thank you all. See you next time with another thrifting or reselling adventure. Bye.